Hey guys, it is Barack Lesnar of Barack Lesnar Hoops, and I made a post on Reddit Fantasy Basketball, and I ended up spending like an hour on it, but it has so much great information that I simply had to turn it into a video and share it with you, my loyal subscribers of Barack Lesnar Hoops. And the entire point of this video is, we kind of discussed it yesterday, setting yourself up for success in your category leagues now that we're in week number 10 and you are either, if you're in the playoff hunt, pretty much this is your time right now to act and put yourself in a position where you can make the playoffs, because time is running out and you can't handle any more losses. And if you're in a great position, discussing what things you can do to really maximize your success, even if it means a little bit of pain right now, to ensure that you're dominant later on. If you're new to Barack Lesnar Hoops, welcome to the channel. Please consider subscribing. And regardless of if you're new or a longtime veteran, smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. Let's not spend too much time with the ranting and raving. Let's go right into this information, because that is what you are here for. So immediately, I mentioned Jalen Brunson only being rostered in 10% of leagues. He's been averaging 50% field goal and 90% free throw for the majority of the season. He doesn't get you points, rebounds, and assists. Why am I talking about Jalen Brunson? Because it has to do with my strategy. My strategy is, I want to maximize my field goal percentage and free throw percentage. I want to keep my turnovers low, and I want to stack as many 3 and D guys as I can. So that means guys that can get me threes, guys that can get me steals, and guys that can get me blocks. Now, players that help you in all those areas are pretty rare. They don't exist all that often. There are some out there, but normally they're the top guys. But there are players that can help you in 4 out of the 5. There's even some that can chip in a little bit in all 5, and those are some of the players we're going to discuss today. So the reason I brought up Jalen Brunson is because he helps your threes, he keeps the turnovers low, nice field goal percentage, nice free throw percentage, and then on top of that, on occasion, he can score for you. He can get you some assists. So he's a guy that helps you in this strategy that I'm advocating for, and he's available on your waiver wire. Daniel House Jr. Doesn't have great percentages right now, but he's available on a lot of waiver wires. DeMarcus Cousins, no longer with the Houston Rockets, and he's one of those players that's going to benefit as that team pushes to, run small. Daniel House Jr. has the ability to get you threes, steals, and blocks, and he's shown that in the past. He's not going to get you a ton of turnovers, and I think we're going to see his percentages improve some. Derek Favors and Joe Ingles, they aren't going to wow you specifically. Joe Ingles has been pretty good over the last few weeks. Mike Conley was out for a lot of that. He's been a lot better as of late, but at the beginning of the season, he wasn't doing too hot. Derek Favors is another guy, doesn't really wow you, but they are both really good at helping your field goal percentage, your free throw percentage. With Derek Favors, you're going to get more shot blocking. With Joe Ingles, you're going to get some threes, you're going to get some assists, and he tends to keep the turnovers relatively low, considering his ability to get you some assists. Jacob Poto is somebody else that I discussed with everyone. He doesn't help your free throw percentage all that much, but he has a really high field goal percentage. He has really great rebounding and blocks potential, and he shouldn't be on your waiver wire. There's also postponed games for the Spurs, and those postponed games have made it so that he's going to likely have a loaded second half schedule, and we could at some point see LaMarcus Aldridge traded. He's already been dealing with a hip injury, and he just hasn't been that great of a player this season. So we could see Jacob Poto continue to get 25 or more minutes, and that is enough time for him to get you potentially 2 blocks per game, which is just real great value to leave on the waiver wire, again, with the strategy that I'm advocating. This may be the most crucial video of mine that you watch. So now really it's time to assess where you are, what you want to do going forward. That's why I'm making a detailed video with my strategy that I use. Most of these players are players that I'm targeting heavily and I've been telling you about, but I just kind of want you to understand really the thinking behind what I'm telling you here. So I would not be shocked if many players outright disregard their percentages, turnovers, steals, and blocks. And it happens with just regular basketball fans. There's this love for guys that can score, get rebounds, and get assists. And if you do those things, you are highly valued. It doesn't matter if you get 10 turnovers per game. It doesn't matter if you're shooting 38% from the field. It doesn't matter if your free throw percentage is 65%. If you have those nice popcorn stats, you're going to be highly valued by certain groups of people. I'm not one of those people. Instead, what I like to do is I'm not going to try to beat you. You have James Harden, you have Joel Embiid, you have just a group of just heavy bruisers. I'm not going to try to beat you at your own game. I'm going to lose by playing your own game. What am I going to do? I'm going to exploit the categories which you neglected. And I'm going to be really good at those. The ones you think don't matter, that field goal percentage, that free throw percentage, turnovers, and maybe steals and blocks to some degree. People do value those, but not enough where they'll stomach, bad points and bad rebounds if the guy gets really good blocks and steals. So that's what I mean by they don't value it. So we're going to discuss a list of players that fit in with what I am telling you. You're not going to find anyone dropping 30 and 10 on the waiver wire. You're just not going to find that. But can you find a guy that has the potential to get you 2 blocks per game, or the potential to get you over 1.5 steals per game, or even the potential to get you 6 assists per game? You can find that. They're going to hurt you in those popcorn stats that everyone loves, but you can't find them, and we're going to discuss them here. So some players I mentioned are Royce O'Neal, Dorian Finney-Smith. They contribute a little bit in several categories. They keep the turnovers low, and they have the potential of getting you close to a steal on the block every single night. DeAnthony Melton, even though he gets limited minutes, he's shown us in the past that when he's getting minutes, he can get you steals and blocks. He can hit threes, and he doesn't absolutely hurt your percentages. Nicholas Batum and Justin Holiday are 2 other underrated players that can contribute in several different categories and are just highly underrated because, again, they don't score a ton of points. So people really undervalue their ability to help you in a categories league. So who are some other players that we can discuss? All right, TJ McConnell. We've talked about him a whole lot. The secret is starting to get out there. People are not sleeping on him as much now as they were before. But man, I've been tooting the horn for TJ McConnell, it seems like, for like 2 months now. He gets you high assists, he has low turnovers, really quality steals, high field goal percentage. He is absolutely one of the best specialists that you can find on the waiver wire, especially if you need a point guard, if you need those steals and you want to help keep your turnovers low while also not hurting your field goal percentage. He's not going to get you any threes. He's not going to score any points for you. Rebounding is not exactly what he does. But those other categories for a guy you can pick up off of the waiver wire right now, I think he's more helpful right now than someone like Kemba Walker or Victor Oladipo, who are, much bigger names as far as fantasy value. But I think as far as actual fantasy basketball production, TJ McConnell's been better than both. So that's why I have him on this list. If he's on your waiver wire, you want to strongly consider picking him up. Patrick Beverley's a guy that's barely on any teams, getting you close to a steal on the block. He keeps the turnovers low. He's getting you over a 3 per game, low risk add, and he can really help you with a boost in those areas. So that's 2 point guards right now that are on a lot of waiver wires that fit this build that I am telling you, and are being neglected because, again, they don't score a ton of points for you. Robert Williams is flying off of the waiver wire. The guy has insane blocks potential, and this past weekend we kind of saw a bit of a breaking out party for him. I think he has Mitchell Robinson type potential to be a guy that if he gets close to 30 minutes per game, he could be getting you 3 blocks per game. He has really high field goal percentage in the limited attempts he gets. He's shown that he could rebound, and he's on the Celtics team that doesn't exactly have a lot of competition for those center minutes. I think Tristan Thompson and Daniel Theis are lower end players, and at some point we may see Robert Williams get a hold of a starting job and get that consistent 25 minutes per game, and he fits perfectly with this build that I am discussing. Nerlens Noel, very similar to Robert Williams. Noel helps your field goal percentage. while averaging close to 2 blocks in only 19 minutes per game. He can get steals, he can rebound, and he also keeps the turnovers pretty low. His asking price has been a little higher with the injury to Mitchell Robinson, but even with Mitchell Robinson coming back at some point, the fact that he gets 2 blocks per game in only 19 minutes, to me says that he can help me as a specialist even when Mitchell Robinson is back. Ideally, you have him as a handcuff to Mitchell Robinson. In case Mitchell Robinson comes back or doesn't come back, you still have that value for that position and for that starting role in Nerlens Noel. David Nwaba is incredibly slept on. And I would argue that one of the main reasons the Rockets just cut DeMarcus Cousins is so they could open up time for him and for Jae'Sean Tate, as well as for Daniel House Jr. And Nwaba, right now, he's more of a 14-team guy until we for sure see him get those consistent minutes. But he's a guy that gets you threes. He's a guy that can get you steals. He can get you some blocks. He can even score on occasion. I think he's one of the most dynamic guys you're going to be able to find in the deep league right now with really low ownership. Jeremy Lamb has been a bit underrated over the last few weeks. He started off hot when he came in, but he's cooled off a bit. The postponed games have definitely cooled his value. People are going after those players that are performing now because with fantasy basketball, it can often be, what have you done for me lately? He hasn't exactly been bad. And I think he's going to be better than he has been the last few weeks. I think he could help both your percentages. He can score. He can get you a sprinkle of steals and blocks. He's going to keep the turnovers low, and he's going to get you some threes. I think he makes for a quality glue guy that even if he's not on your waiver wire, you could probably send a buy low offer and steal him away from an owner that has given up on him. TJ Warren, I wanted to put him on this list, also on the Pacers, because we don't know when he's going to be back. But when he's healthy, he's one of those guys that really helps your field goal percentage and your free throw percentage. He can score 18, 19 points per game. He can get you 7 rebounds per game. He's not really an assist guy, a steals guy, or a blocks guy, but he keeps the turnovers low, and he's just so good in those different areas that, you know, you might not be able to trade for a Tobias Harris, but maybe you could take a chance on someone like TJ Warren, hold on to them, and then they come back, and all of a sudden you're getting a big boost in your scoring and your percentages and making your team really hard to beat. So Dante DiVincenzo, somebody else that I wanted to name because he has been struggling so far. The entire Bucks team has been struggling ever since Drew Holiday went down with COVID. But he has threes and steals potential. We've seen in the past he can shoot a high field goal percentage while getting you threes. He can keep the turnovers pretty low. And he's still a young player that's very athletic, so we may not have seen the best he has to offer yet. I love his upside. I love that he's young. I tend to skew young when it comes to fantasy basketball because older players worry me. They're just more injury prone. They tend to be able to handle less minutes, and you kind of know what you get with them. They don't have the uncapped potential some of these younger guys have. So Dante DiVincenzo definitely makes that list for me. So speaking of buying low, who are some guys I am valuing in trades right now? These are guys who I believe have better fantasy value than name value and are overall underappreciated for how great they are in category leagues. I had somebody in this very thread question why I would name some of these guys as buy lows, but the explanation is literally right there. They have way better fantasy value than name value. They are not household names. They are not guys that when you talk to a casual, they're going to mention, hey, you know, that guy's better than this guy in fantasy basketball, because a lot of more casual players go off of name recognition, and if it's a name they don't recognize as much, they tend to undervalue that production. So who are these guys that I am referring to? Christian Wood. Christian Wood, I have him on this list because his injury has dampened his value, but he may be back sooner rather than later, according to his Instagram. His scoring, field goal percentage, threes, rebounding, and blocks makes him a very desirable target for this build I'm talking about. His free throw percentage isn't great, but he helps you in so many of the different areas, and he's one of the top unicorns as far as his ability to hit threes while keeping a high field goal percentage and getting you blocks. Those players are very valuable while also scoring a lot. He's kind of not as good as Karl Anthony Towns, but he puts up very similar production to him and Anthony Davis. With the injury concerns, if he's on a team where the owner is desperate, you may be able to buy low on Christian Wood right now, because when he comes back healthy in a few weeks, they just got rid of DeMarcus Cousins and they said they want to run small with Christian Wood as their big man, and there's not a lot of other big men to compete for minutes on that team. So Christian Wood is going to be getting the lion's share of center minutes, and I think he's going to be on a lot of championship rosters as long as he's able to stay healthy. So Fred VanVleet, I was questioned about why I would include Fred VanVleet when he's ranked in the top 4 on Yahoo, and I just mentioned it. I believe if you offer someone like Devin Booker for Fred VanVleet, you'll at least get a person to listen, just because the name value is there. Okay, if you were to offer Devin Booker maybe another piece with a name they recognize, the value is there. There's guys you can offer that are not as good as Fred VanVleet and be able to get Fred VanVleet. So that's why I'm saying you're buying low on what he actually produces, because there's a disconnect between his actual value in people's minds and the actual value that he's putting up in your fantasy basketball league. There's huge disconnects all the time. We've discussed it with TJ McConnell. We've discussed it with Justin Holiday. There are players that perform at a high level, but since they don't put up traditional numbers in certain categories, they tend to be undervalued. So that's what I mean by buy low on Fred VanVleet. Not that he's not performing at a high level, because he absolutely is. And again, I clarify that by saying guys who I believe have way better fantasy value than name value. I just want to make sure we're clear on that. Fred VanVleet, he kills your field goal percentage, but he has astounding production in almost every other area. He gets you high threes. I don't know why I said high field goal percentage. That's not what I meant there. But he has high free throw percentage, high steals, great assist, all with very low turnovers. If I could either have Trae Young or Fred VanVleet, give me Fred VanVleet. So that right there is what I mean. Trae Young is not ranking anywhere near as highly as Fred VanVleet, but if you're able to get Fred VanVleet for Trae Young, in my opinion, you're buying low on Fred VanVleet because he's the better option. All right, now I need to make sure I go back and fix that, because he definitely doesn't have high field goal percentage. Jonas Valanciunas, the guy can score, rebound, and he doesn't crush your free throw percentage. He's not the best at it, but he doesn't crush it. Gives you a massive boost to your field goal percentage. He's not a great shot blocker, but with the right pieces around him, I think he could be a key piece to your build. He gets a lot of rebounds, really high field goal percentage. On occasion, he'll go for 20 plus points. And if he strings together those games, he can make your team very hard to beat and really boost those percentages. I also believe there's the added benefit that the Grizzlies are going to have a loaded second half schedule due to all the games that have been postponed. So even with the return of Jaren Jackson Jr., I believe his role is secure, and with Memphis fighting to be in the playoffs, his playing time should be secure. Malcolm Brogdon, he isn't a huge steals and blocks guy, but he can help your field goal percentage, your free throw percentage. He can score, he can get you assists, and he keeps the turnovers low. So if I have him, I definitely want to focus my other guys to be guys that can get you decent steals and blocks numbers to make up for the fact that those aren't areas in which he helps me, but I'm really getting him to boost my percentages, help me with threes, help me with assists, help score for me, and keep the turnovers low. So even if I lose scoring, I'm still competitive in scoring. But even if I lose scoring, I'm trying to beat them in turnovers, and I'm trying to have better percentages than them. And really, I'm trying to beat them in threes, hopefully, and surround the team with enough steals and blocks guys that I'm at least winning one of those categories. DeMar DeRozan, not a guy that gets you threes, but his high field goal percentage, his high free throw percentage, high assist, and high scoring make him a key cog in your build, especially if you're able to surround him with specialists that can negate his lack of threes, steals, and blocks. So he doesn't get you threes, steals, and blocks, but I think he's a great player that really helps you with your field goal percentage, your free throw percentage, and he does it on high volume, which means when it's with high volume, you get less fluctuation. So it's not like he's taking 2 shots, he misses 1, now he's shooting 50% from free throw, or he makes both shots and he's shooting 100%, but there's such low volume it doesn't really move the needle. He takes heavy volume and he helps you with those percentages. He's probably a lot more obtainable than somebody like Jimmy Butler's going to be, who helps you in very similar ways, except Jimmy Butler's more of a steals guy than DeMar DeRozan is. Tobias Harris, I think, is one of the most underrated fantasy basketball players. He helps you in almost every single area, doesn't really hurt you in any particular area. I said for years, he is one of the most complete fantasy basketball players, especially in category leagues. He keeps the turnovers low. I love his percentages. He can rebound. He can get you some assists. He'll get you close to a steal and a block per game. And he can go for 20 plus points any given night. I think he's an amazing glue player. And when I say a glue player, it's a guy that just brings like cohesion to your build. They just fit so many different builds because they help you across the board. And when you have a few of these guys on your team, they're like a glue that brings your team together. They smooth out the edges. Maybe you have a guy or two. Maybe you have a Fred VanVleet, but then you grab a guy like Tobias Harris, a guy like Malcolm Brogdon, who smooth out the low field goal percentage while still helping you in the same areas as Fred VanVleet. On the other side of the coin, those guys don't get you a lot of steals. Fred VanVleet does, and they're all keeping the turnovers low, all helping you with assists. Before you know it, you have a very strong, cohesive build. Mitchell Robinson, if you have the IR space, I suggest buying low on Mitchell Robinson. I was able to pick him up in a 10-team league. Somebody dropped him to the IR, and it's a dynasty league. I picked him up. I'm going to carry that dead weight. I may lose the season, but I couldn't give up on Mitchell Robinson when I saw him there, because when he comes back, he's going to help my field goal percentage. He's going to get me double-digit rebounds. And you want to surround him with guys with really good free throw percentage to cancel out his low percentage there. But he doesn't take a ton of free throws, so it's, like I mentioned before, it's not like he hurts you all that much, even when he does shoot a low percentage. So you are able to cushion the impact from his free throw percentage. With Marcus Smart, if you're struggling to make the playoffs, then you are not in position to trade for an injured player right now. But if you are doing well, then I highly recommend looking into getting Marcus Smart. Maybe you can't get Fred VanVleet. He's very similar to Fred VanVleet, but you may be able to get Marcus Smart if you're able to handle that risk of him being injured. He helps your threes, your steals, your blocks, your assists, and your free throw percentage. He doesn't destroy your turnovers, and he's incredibly important to what the Celtics are doing. You see, ever since he went down, the Celtics have been struggling. So due to him being injured, you may be able to pry him away with a hot waiver wire pickup right now. You may be able to catch a person with FOMO, or you may catch a person that just can't afford an injured guy anymore because they're struggling to make the playoffs, and you may be able to get Marcus Smart for very cheap. I would recommend looking into that. Tyrese Halliburton reminds me of Tobias Harris as a point guard, but he has better steals and blocks potential. The rookie wall, of course, could be an issue. He's a young player, and there's no guarantee that he continues doing this well. So far, though, he has been a fantasy god. He's been great. He gets great percentages, gets threes, he assists, he can score, and he doesn't turn the ball over. His value is not based on usage either. I believe I read something that in NCAA history, he has the highest plus minus for a player with as low of a usage percentage as he had. That told me a whole lot, and that's why I was so high on him, because to me that showed that's a guy that's out there contributing without needing the ball in his hands. And when he does have the ball in his hands, he's making great decisions with the ball. So he's not producing because he has the ball every possession, but he's producing because he's just doing the right things and making the smart plays that really help his team. Serge Ibaka is a low usage player that helps your percentages. He gets rebounds, he gets blocks, and he hits threes. He's probably one of the more obtainable unicorns you're able to get due to his advanced age and just being on a very loaded Clippers team. He doesn't need a ton of usage to help as long as he keeps the percentages high, hits threes, gets you those blocks, and keeps the turnovers pretty low. And on occasion, he'll help you with your rebounding. I think that brings him a lot of value in the format that I'm discussing. Drew Holiday won't be easy to trade for, but he helps you across the board, and he may have a cheaper price tag due to missing time with COVID protocols. He's a guy that can score, can get threes, can get assists, can get you steals, can get you blocks. The turnovers aren't the worst either. He's kind of like Fred VanVleet, where his fantasy value is really good, and he's become somewhat underrated in that his fantasy value is better than his name recognition. So people should realize, look how the Bucks are doing ever since he went down. He's a key part of that team. His minutes are going to be secure once he comes back, and he's just a really good player, not only for the Milwaukee Bucks, but I think for your fantasy basketball team as well. We're going to talk about another Milwaukee Buck now. Brook Lopez, he's been struggling, and he's a bit of a risky option because he is older. I told you I skew young, but I really like Brook Lopez, and people are down on him right now. I've heard people asking if they should drop him, which to me tells me there's some buy low potential here for one of the best 3 and block guys in the NBA. He doesn't hurt your percentages. He keeps the turnovers low. Like some of the other guys I've mentioned, like TJ McConnell, he's not going to score a bunch, so people tend to really undervalue his contributions. But when he's on, he can get you close to 2 blocks. He can get you over 1.5 threes. He helps your free throw percentage. The field goal percentage tends to not be the worst. Just really valuable glue unicorn type player that'll be a lot more obtainable than someone like Miles Turner, for example. Brook Lopez, again, is a bit of a risky pick, but it's I'd say it's not super high risk. You could probably sell a hot free agent. Maybe you trade Robert Williams and you get Brook Lopez back. I think I would consider that move, and I think the guy who has Brook Lopez, with how poorly Brook Lopez has been playing, I think he may consider that move as well. Robert Covington, you guys, I don't have to tell you this. Anyone that watches this channel knows my love for Lord Robert Covington. He started the season off rough. No one can deny that. But I told you guys, believe in him. Believe in him. Don't drop him. I told you to have diamond hands when it came to him. Now, over the last 2 weeks, he's been playing at a top 25 level. And if you dropped him, it is what it is. I try to tell you. If you thought you knew better about Lord Robert Covington than I did, there's few things I'm as sure of in life as Robert Covington helping your fantasy basketball team. And that is what he's doing right now. I still think he has somewhat of a buy low window. I think a lot of people are still apprehensive that he can continue doing what he's been doing over the last couple of weeks. So go ahead and try to trade for him. Maybe you can add him as a sweetener, get him as a sweetener in the deal for a different player, and they may be able to, they may give him up. So earlier this year, I traded Lonzo Ball, Tyrese Halliburton, and Kyle Anderson, and I ended up getting Drew Holiday and Robert Covington. Now I have Robert Covington, and I just traded back for Tyrese Halliburton. I traded away Robert Williams. I traded away Jeremy Lamb. And there was some picks exchanged because it was a dynasty league. But really happy with the fact that I was able to buy low on Robert Covington, because now he's been absolutely great and fits in well with this build that I'm promoting. This build to me is all. Chris Middleton, the 3rd Milwaukee Buck mentioned. Can you tell that I have a bias? He's actually the 4th, because I also told you about Dante DiVincenzo. Middleton is a stud, but similar to the situation with Fred VanVleet, he just doesn't have the name recognition as a Jason Tatum or a Jaylen Brown. He doesn't have that name value. Even though, in my opinion, he's a better categories league type player. He can do a little bit of everything. He gets threes. He gets you elite percentages. He can score. He can get assists. He can get steals. His turnovers aren't really high. He is a quality player that I definitely recommend trying to trade for. I know earlier on in the season, I traded away Kawhi Leonard for Chris Middleton and Tobias Harris, because even back then, this is a build I highly believe in, and I thought those were 2 of the best players for this build. Even though I gave away somebody like Kawhi Leonard, ultimately, my team has been doing pretty well so far. John Collins, his value has soured. He hasn't been the best fit with Clint Capella on that Atlanta Hawks team. He's still one of the best guys for threes, free throw percentage, field goal percentage, rebounds, and blocks. He's still young, has a ton of upside, and there's been rumors that he may be traded. And you want him to be on your team if he does happen to be traded. He's probably has the best mix of a buy low window combined with really high upside that you're going to find right now. He has like that best combination, because when he's at his best, we've seen him put up early round production. We're talking 1st, 2nd round type production in category leagues. So buy low on him. I still think he can help you with your rebounding, your blocks, your threes, your field goal percentage, your free throw percentage, and not really hurt your turnovers all that much. And that's just incredibly valuable production, as we've been hammering into your head all season long. So as I told you guys, most of these guys I discussed are not heavy usage guys. Heavy usage guys are hard to find because they're the scorers. They're the guys that have the ball in their hands constantly, and that's a small group of players. All right, here's some other guys that you can try to target in trade. So CJ McCollum, his owners may be tired of him being, he's been out a really long time, and they may forget how good he was when he was healthy. So he's very Steph Curry-like with his production so far this season. He's going to help give you a boost of threes, your percentages, your scoring. He has a 5-to-1 assist to turnover ratio so far this season. We saw him doing that coming off of a broken back, so I don't think the foot injury is going to hold him back for very long. Put out some feelers, see if you're able to buy CJ McCollum for cheap. Jared Allen on a Cavs team that is showing Andre Drummond the door to open up playing time for Jared Allen. He has elite potential. He isn't a household name. His value is still low enough that you could steal him away from an owner valuing name recognition. He doesn't hit threes or help your free throw percentage, but his field goal percentage, his rebounding, low turnovers make him a really nice target for cheaper price tag guys like Gobert, Capella. Then guys like Gobert and Capella, who are going to cost you more to get, and he has similar upside in my opinion. DeAndre Ayton, similar to John Collins, he hasn't met those second round expectations we had for him. He's still a league leading rebounder, doesn't turn over the ball all that much. He turns it over about 2 times per game, which relative to his assist isn't great, but it's also not something that you're not able to handle. He gets you a little over a block per game. I don't think we've seen the best basketball from him so far. I think we're going to see some dominant performances still. I think he's still playing himself into mid-season form. So in one league, I traded away Giannis for DeAndre Ayton and Drew Holiday. And the team I traded Giannis to has been tanking ever since. And we'll discuss a little more about Giannis later. So Jaren Jackson Jr. is another guy that I am recommending you try to trade for while his value is really low. The people who have owned him are frustrated at this point. He's been gone forever. Do not lose sight of the fact that the man is he's 7 feet tall. Probably the best 3-point shooting, steals, blocks guy that you're going to find this side of Robert Covington. And if you're well positioned for a playoff run, you could buy low on him and throw him in your IR. Like I said with Jonas Valanciunas, the Grizzlies have a potentially loaded second half schedule. And with them competing for a playoff spot, I think the desire is that to keep him out so he could rest. And once he comes back, they want him to stay back because they need him for that playoff run. So I believe in Jaren Jackson Jr. I think people are growing tired of holding him. In the leagues I drafted him, I have not dropped him. I'm still holding him in that IR because I believe in his upside. I believe in his potential. And we've seen him, what he can do when he's healthy. And he's just one of those great steals, blocks, 3-point guys, premier when it comes to those categories. And this is probably the closest to a buy low window you're going to get until he comes back. Once he comes back, you're probably going to have to give up a lot more to try to get him. So what are some of the guys I would consider moving for some of these players above? Now, before we get any further, keep in mind, I'm not saying these guys are not good. They're just not ideal for the build I'm suggesting. I'm not telling you they're not good players at all. They're really good players, but they have some flaws that make them not the most ideal options for this build I'm suggesting. So Trae Young, one of my favorite point guards in the league, but has high turnovers, low field goal percentage, doesn't get you steals and blocks. He has a lot of points. He has a lot of name value and he scores a lot. So you could probably get really good offers for him and you could get some of the guys above. Like I mentioned before, if I'm able to trade away Trae Young and get Fred VanVleet back, I think I would make that trade and Fred VanVleet would fit a lot better with this mold that I'm discussing here. Joel Embiid has high turnovers, is injury prone, and always a liability for rest games. Embiid could fetch you a great haul due to his eye-popping numbers. So, love Joel Embiid as well. These guys are all quality players. The thing with Joel Embiid is he gets a lot of turnovers and he gets random rest games. We've been seeing him get random ailments, sitting random games, and almost every season we've seen him miss significant time with injuries. He's been relatively healthy so far this season, but I still have concerns with the turnovers. His field goal percentage, it's not that he hurts you because he still shoots close to 50%, but he has such high volume that on an off shooting night, he could really throw everything out of whack. He's a really got great steals and blocks guy. So again, I'm not telling you that you have to get rid of him, but I'm telling you guys that aren't ideal for this build that can really get you a nice haul where you can start building this structure that I am advocating for here. Anthony Davis, huge question marks around his health. You could probably try to package him for some of the players in the list above. When he is healthy, he is the ultimate player for this build, all right? But with injury concerns that make him a possible liability for rest games for the rest of the season, it may be time to move on. I hate to say that, but if you can get some of these players above, you may want to consider it. If he were healthy and there were no rest games or question marks, Anthony Davis absolutely fits this build better than anyone else. But with that Achilles injury he's dealing with, it seems like it's something really serious. Originally, they said he'd be evaluated in 2 to 3 weeks. Then that changed to for sure being out 4 weeks. So we're already talking not having him back until the end of March. So you may want to make a move while you still have the opportunity to. LeBron James, the ultimate name value player, has 4 free throw percentage, has high turnovers, doesn't get you a ton of steals and blocks. I think that makes him a really nice sell high target because, again, he does not fit this mold ideally due to the high turnovers, low free throw percentage, and the lack of steals and blocks. Giannis Antetokounmpo, similar situation. He is a free throw percentage killer. He has been better as of late in free throw percentage, but still we've seen how bad he can be, and I doubt we see a vast improvement where he doesn't still hurt you in that area. He averages great field goal percentage. He gets you some threes. He averages amazing rebounding, amazing scoring, gets you decent assists. Even the steals and blocks are nice, but that free throw percentage hit can be a pretty awful one. And I just think it can be hard to build around, especially if he has a night where he takes 10 free throws and he misses 8 of them. Luka Doncic. Now, don't get me wrong. Luka Doncic is absolutely amazing, but he is flawed in category leagues. His percentages can be inconsistent. He gets a ton of turnovers. And while we've seen an improvement in his steals and blocks, it is still not an area of strength for him. With his name value, you could get some amazing players back that you can try to build a strong foundation for this build that I am suggesting. Donovan Mitchell, another guy I absolutely love. What I don't love is his 43% field goal percentage on heavy volume. He's getting you under 1 steal per game, and his turnovers per game at 3 per game are pretty high. He's getting you the popcorn stats, but most owners will heavily consider, and most owners will consider him. If you offer Donovan Mitchell, that owner's likely going to listen. Domantas Sabonis is a beast, all right? He can do it all. His low free throw percentage, though, similar situation to Giannis, and his high turnovers they concern me. His steals and blocks potential is pretty average. It's not something he does great. Would I give him up for someone like Karl Anthony Towns, who has some buy low potential right now? I would trade Sabonis for Karl Anthony Towns. There's some question marks around Karl Anthony Towns, if he's going to be rested later on, how healthy his wrist is. They have a new coach now, and the coach says Karl Anthony Towns is the center of everything they're going to do. So maybe they aren't going to rest him. While the question marks are out there, Lord, if I could flip Domantas Sabonis and get Karl Anthony Towns, I would absolutely do that. Julian Randle's another guy very similar to Domantas Sabonis, having an amazing season. He's putting up superstar production on one of the best Knicks teams I've seen in a while. He doesn't get you steals and blocks. He gets high turnovers, and makes him, in my opinion, a guy to consider moving for some of the guys we named above. Not telling you to sell him for cheap at all, but I do worry about a potential regression in his percentages and his threes. He's making a lot of threes right now. His percentages are still really high. I can see a regression happening there just based off his career trends. Something to keep in mind. Russell Westbrook is the ultimate name value versus fantasy value player. A staple of my do not draft list. Add him in your trade packages because he is the antithesis. He's the antithesis of the strategy I am suggesting. He has awful percentages. He gets rest games. He's resting 1 game of every back-to-back so far. High turnovers, really high. His threes are spotty and his stocks are spotty as well. I would look to move him as soon as possible. People have really soured on him. Of course, this is in categories leagues and point leagues. He still has a lot of value, as do most of these guys I am mentioning. But category leagues are a different animal. So keep that in mind when you're taking this advice that I am giving you. The Wizards' record is also so bad. He is a huge liability as a player to get rested when you need him the most. So keep that in mind. If the Wizards decide they're going to start punching games, they may just outright sit Russell Westbrook. And that would be detrimental if you have him on your team. Ja Morant, man, I love me some Ja Morant. I love all these guys. These guys are all quality players, a lot better in points leagues, in my opinion. The problem with Ja is he has average field goal percentage. He has average free throw percentage. He's getting 3 turnovers per game. There's a lack of threes. He has limited steals and blocks. So he's really a guy that you're drafting for his ability to get you points and assists, which he does really well. But those other categories, he's just not helping you enough for the build that I'm suggesting, which I think makes him a really nice trade target. If you could get Fred VanVleet for him, I think you make that move. Yes, Fred VanVleet has lower field goal percentage, but he also has way more threes. He's going to have less turnovers. He's still going to get comparable assists, and he's going to get you probably even more blocks than you're getting from Ja Morant. Fred VanVleet, he's been somewhat surprising. We've been seeing him get more blocks this year. So has Kyrie Irving. 2 things I didn't really expect. Victor Oladipo and Kemba Walker. These guys don't have high trade value at all. They both have putrid field goal percentage, awful free throw percentage as far as Victor Oladipo. Both appear to be getting those rest games on the back-to-backs. They don't have a ton of value right now, but they may have enough name recognition that you could try to package them for players that help you more. I traded Victor Oladipo for Ricky Rubio and Jalen Brunson in a really deep 16-team league. I have absolutely no regrets right now. And this is before we found out that D'Angelo Russell would be out for the next few weeks. So that is how much I value Victor Oladipo. Kemba Walker's probably slightly better, but still his field goal percentage has been awful. I don't like his steals potential. So I think he's another guy that you can try to package. Maybe package both of them together if you have both, or package them with other players. Maybe try a 2-for-1 type deal. And maybe they have enough name recognition where somebody takes a bite. But all right, guys, that is the breakdown. Oh, we spoke for 42 minutes, but I think this is my most important video to get you right into mid-season form so that you can start building and tinkering and place yourself in position to really excel towards the latter half of this year. Again, you don't want to trade for injured guys if you're struggling for the playoffs. You don't even want to hold injured guys. You have to move on. But if you're in a position where you're doing well in the league and you can afford to wait for these guys to come back, even if you don't have an IR space for them, it could really pay dividends later on towards the fantasy playoffs when these guys are healthy and you bought really low on them and you still happen to keep your studs. So if you haven't yet, please join the official Discord of Barack Lesnar Hoops. I posted that here earlier today. You could click on that link in the description. You're going to get an invite to the Discord server. This is the Discord server itself. It is absolutely amazing. The community is growing quickly. We are at 389 members, getting close to 400 members. It is incredibly active, really active fantasy basketball community. We have daily NBA 2K discussion. We have NBA news updates. We have a rate my team section. We have trade discussions. We have keep or cut section. We have we just have it super segmented. It is clean. It is neat. We want you in there. Almost 400 members, growing quickly. It's been out less than a month, so the growth has been exponential. It is an amazing asset, an amazing tool, and really the main hub for Barack Lesnar Hoops. Not only fantasy basketball, but like I told you, we discuss investing, we discuss NBA 2K, we discuss even some gambling. If you want to discuss gambling, we haven't really gotten into that too deeply, but some people asked for it and we added it there. Very excited to have this Discord server. And the other thing I'm going to recommend, if you have not yet, is that you get yourself the Fantasy Basketball Wizard Chrome extension. here's the link right here in that Reddit thread, but you can find it in the description as well. And as you can see here, it is going to add this free extension to your browser. And what it does is when you go to Yahoo, you're going to get projections for the week. Okay, as you can see here, I'm projected to win the week 6-3. So now I know, all right, well, I'm low on field goal percentage, so probably not much I can do there. But I also know, let's see, my blocks, maybe I can get better in blocks because I'm only 5 blocks away. So maybe if I focus on the shot blocker or 2, maybe I can stream a shot blocker and end up winning blocks. It's an amazing tool for that reason. And with me telling you to have a strong build for your percentages, you can see here that that's something that I'm trying to do. Even though the field goal percentage for this week right now, it's projected at 47%. Right now I'm at 43%. So it really shows that this isn't a bad team if they're projecting that despite me being at 435 that I can get it up to closer to 47%. The free throw percentage close to 80%. I'm getting a lot of threes, and my steals and my are really nice. My blocks are looking pretty nice as well because I'm barely under the guy who has Rudy Gobert, Wendell Carter Jr., and just a few different guys that are able to get him some blocks. And Steven Adams may not even play. That's probably going to knock him down some. So just one of my favorite fantasy basketball tools. It's an absolutely free. You can get it. I call it a Chrome extension, but it's also on Firefox. And one of my favorite new features, if you have not seen it yet, which my loyal viewers have already seen this, but we're going to go to transaction trends and we're going to have to go to a points league. So let me go to a point. In a points league, you're going to get points projections for each player. You're also going to get how many games they have remaining for the week, which is an absolutely amazing tool. So when you're streaming, guys, in a points league or even in a category based league, you're going to know how many games they have left for the week so that you don't even have to go out of your way to calculate what that's going to be. Okay, the points projection is amazing because if you know you have 3 streamer spots, you can see instantly, well, these guys all play 4 games, and get a general idea of how many points they're projected to get for the week to help you make more informed decisions. It's an amazing tool. That's why I gush so much about it. And they are a friend of Barack Lesnar Hoops. They even have a link to the official website of Barack Lesnar Hoops, which is a great place for you to go to check out videos such as my week 10 waiver wire pickups. Another way you can check out some of my recent videos is to click one of the videos above. If you have not yet, smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. If you're new, please subscribe, and again, watch one of the videos above. I hope this was educational. If it was, please comment below. Until next time, this is Barack Lesnar of Barack Lesnar Hoops. Smash that like button. Goodbye.